Well, welcome everybody to the August Austin OWASP chapter meeting. How's everybody doing today? Good. Sponsors for today for our food, we use our chapter revenue and memberships from our last con and also facilities, National Instruments, thanks to them. Our chapter leadership, I just have a list of all of us up here. Just raise your hands if you're on this the board. And if you have any questions about our chapter, just come see any one of us and we'll be happy to talk to you about it. This meeting is also eligible for a CPE hour, and what I usually do is just ask if you just email me and let me know if you'd like to receive a certificate for that. So. Our study group, we have that going on right now with the basic security testing with Kali Linux 2. Matt, did you want to say anything? Where's Matt Pardo? Maybe he's not in the room right now. Didn't know if you want. Oh, there's Matt. Hey, did you want to say anything about the study group at this point, or?
Okay, so we run a regular study group on Thursday at lunch. Right now, we're going through Kali, but we have another study group or a set of study groups that have started. It's every 2 weeks. It'll be a Monday or Wednesday evening from 6 to 9. And there are going to be 5 different subgroups. There's going to be binary exploitation, reverse engineering, web application, pen testing essentially, and programming and cryptology. If you're interested in diving deep into any of those topics, get with me and let me know, and I can put you in touch with the group leader. They are requiring a commit of about 8 hours a week of self-study and then the 3-hour meeting. And there will be exercises and stuff like that. So there's no charge for it. We meet at libraries.
Thank you, Matt. For memberships, I don't know if everybody's aware, but there's different options for individual membership. You do not have to be a member to attend this event or other local type events like this. But if you would be willing to give back to the chapter, then we have different ones that you can sign up for and join. Also, to show your support, there is volunteer opportunities that either get involved with the leadership, getting involved with speaking opportunities, as well as any local events. And also, if you do purchase things off of Amazon, there's the Amazon Smile where you can actually select OWASP Foundation, and we get a portion of that will go towards us. So upcoming chapter events, there is the Austin Security Professionals Happy Hour that's going to be September 8th at Sherlock's. And for other training opportunities, Matt already mentioned about the one study group, but that just stay tuned. Matt may have some other things in store for us. And our conferences, the last con is coming up. It's coming up pretty quick, it seems, and on November 1st through 4th. And I know, Griff, I think you wanted to say something about volunteers for the last con itself.
Thank you. Yeah, last con is coming up in early November. It takes a large volunteer crew to run the show, and I'm working on rounding up volunteers. We almost have a full complement at this point. So if you are interested in volunteering and getting free admission, just contact me after the meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Ben, did you want to say anything else? Or?
There's quite a few new faces. For those who don't know, LastCon is our chapter's annual conference. How many people have been to LastCon before? Yeah, good number. That's awesome to see. If you haven't, talk to someone who had their hand up, and they'll tell you about it. It's our great conference. It's volunteer organized, and we'd love to have you there. You can sign up, or you can talk to Griff and become a volunteer to have your first experience. So we hope you join us, and we would really love to grow the security community here in Austin.
Thank you, Bankin. Also, other upcoming local events, I have some of them listed here, but I also want to be able to ask if anybody else has any announcements they would like to do for some local events.
Hello, everyone. The UT Computer Science, the Information and the System Security Society is looking for sponsorship. It's a student organization at UT Computer Science. The sponsorship start with $500. It's not a lot, and the students do need help. Through the sponsorship, companies can broaden their outreach in the community through hosting events and the recruiting opportunities as well. And this is a good opportunity. As some of you probably know, if you want to be, they call the Friends of Computer Science at UT Austin, it costs $20,000. Okay, of course, this is not direct comparison, but it does give companies opportunity to reach UT Computer Science students. I forgot to say, they have a website. It's ISSS.io. You can look at a website to find the sponsor package, and I also have printout if someone is interested in. Please come to take one. Thank you. Thanks. Austin?
Awesome to see a lot of people here at OWASP. Be real brief. This just hot off the press. I'm with the leadership team at Hackformers. Hackformers, you probably heard of it. It kind of mixes security with the spiritual. We have Eric Anderson speaking September 9th. Eric Anderson is the detection manager of the Austin Cyber Incident Response Team at General Motors. And his topic here is intelligence-driven strategies to defeat cyber and soul attacks. And again, if you haven't heard of Hackformers, it's Teach Security, Teach Christ, and Teach Security in Christ. And you can find more information at hackformers.org or come and see me. Thanks.
Thanks, Austin. Anybody else? I'd also like to have this opportunity now if anybody has any job opportunities that they would like to announce.
Hi, my name is AJ. We have an opening coming up. It's not been posted yet, but it's a backfill for an InfoSec analyst. Anybody knows anybody that would be interested, have them contact me.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, I'm Josh Sokol. I run the security team here at National Instruments. We actually have an opening here in Austin for an IT auditor. So if you're interested in IT audit kind of stuff, reach out to me. Thanks.
I'm John Steins. I'm with Denim Group. We have an opening, couple different openings for both information security consulting as well as pen testing. So give me a shout if you know anyone who's good at pen testing or information security and is looking.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Patrice Coles from Visa, and if anybody's interested in a red team or InfoSec analyst positions, we have those available in Austin as well.
Thanks. Anybody else? Okay. Good to hear there's jobs out there. And just one more thing. Okay.
We have a security certification course starting at Austin Community College, October 25th through December 13th. Meets Tuesday, Thursday. We'll be doing a fair amount of lab time along with covering the basic knowledge on the security areas.
Thank you. Okay, and just for any other information about our Austin chapter, you can go to austin.owasp.org. And now I'd like to introduce unless Kate would like to do the introduction here.
I'm pretty excited to have from the Houston chapter, Peter Ewane. He's a researcher, security researcher at AlienVault. Don't look surprised. You're going to have to come up here, Peter. You don't get to present from there. You got to come here. He's a little shy. Okay, so and I also wanted to mention this. When I was at Black Hat, I got this book autographed by the author, and so Tiana's going to draw a name at the end so that somebody can win it. Yeah, pretty fun.
Hello there. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Peter. And today I'm going to be giving you a quick primer on malicious PowerShell detection. What I'm going to tell you right off the bat what this talk isn't is not sexy red team stuff. It's the nitty-gritty blue team stuff that actually gets the job done. And the other thing I'm going to preface with is I like to be pretty interactive with y'all. So when I talk to y'all, I appreciate it if you talk back. Feel free to heckle, just like not too much. Mostly you. All right. Think y'all can do that for me? All right, sweet. Let's get started. Seems like y'all are alive today. All right, so this is who I am. I'm a security researcher at AlienVault. I really like cocktails, so if you know any good cocktail bars that I haven't been to, feel free to let me know. You can hit me right there on my Twitter or just slide a Post-it note into my pocket. And this is the itinerary we're going to be covering today. Just a quick overview of PowerShell, various attack tooling, some malicious activity, logging, and then most importantly, hardening tips. So first question is, what is a PowerShell? Who in here has ever used PowerShell? That is a lot more than usual. I'm unprepared. So one more time, can y'all raise your hand? Let's say you at the end. What do you use PowerShell for? Okay. And you over here, raise your hand. All right. Then the second question I have is, what is PowerShell? What's someone's definition? Don't be scared. PowerShell can do that. Yes, that is its main purpose. Anyone else have a definition? He said a post-exploitation toolkit for Windows, which isn't true anymore because it also runs on Linux and Mac now. All right, anyone else have a definition? All right, cool. Anyone else? Someone from this side. Y'all have been really quiet. Let's see, you made eye contact with me. Yeah, you. In your own words. Feel free to make something up. I use PowerShell to tie my shoes. Mm-hmm. Right. Excellent. PowerShell is a lot of things. Like honestly, it's hard to put a definition around it, and even if you go to the PowerShell developers blog, it's hard for them to put a definition on it. It does so many things. It's an API. It's an interactive scripting language. It's kind of like a batch sometimes. It does everything. And that leads us to our next thing. What can PowerShell do? Honestly, everything. You Windows admins know it can make your life awesome. You can automate so much stuff. You can push changes left and right all through your GPO. You can affect only computers on the left-hand side, only computers on the right-hand side. But on the other end, it can also ruin everything you do if you don't properly set it up. Because like our friend over here said, it's a giant post-exploitation toolkit because it has access registry, just like the .NET API, which has access to everything down to kernel level and ring 0, which is kind of scary sometimes when you think about it, but it also is awesome. And these are just the quick default installs that show up in the Windows. Still the most common right now is PowerShell 2.0, which is very sad because that's the worst version of PowerShell in my opinion, but it's the most ubiquitous that you'll see around. And why do people use PowerShell for attacks? Anyone have any ideas? Yes, because they can, but I can also use a rock, but that's not a good hacking tool. Excellent. One of the several, go ahead. another good thing. Like, number one, I would say if I was an attacker, one reason I would use PowerShell is because it's everywhere. I can't expect Python to be installed on all Windows machines, can I? Yes, no? No. Can I expect like Ruby to be installed on most things? No. But if it's Windows after XP, it most likely has PowerShell. What someone was saying is the ability to run code in memory is so important. There's all sorts of FIMs and everything like that because I can see everything that goes on disk, but I don't know any good memory scanners that run 24/7 without slowing down the computer to a crawl. Does anyone else know one? If you do, like, we have a business opportunity, just by the way. Now, as he mentioned over there, is the logging. And the early versions of PowerShell logging was almost zero. I dare say negative, like it erased logs whenever it ran. It was so bad. And then something that I mentioned earlier was the direct access to APIs. It has you don't have to do anything to call these low-level APIs where you can manipulate everything on the computer. And then the other thing that's kind of changing now is lack of the attack surface knowledge. When PowerShell first came out, I'm sure the developers wasn't their first thing. It was like, oh, people are going to use these to attack all these different computers. They wanted to make people's lives easier. I'm sure it's like the guy who invented the gun. He wasn't like, oh, people are going to shoot each other with this. It's like, oh, we're going to defend ourselves from stuff. It's going to be great. And this is just a list of various popular PowerShell attack tooling. I'm sure everyone's heard of PowerSport, PowerShell Empire, all these various things. I'm sure there's more toolkits because everyone pushes their own to GitHub and Bitbucket all the time. Anyone have any experience with these? Yes? No? Which one do you use? All right, cool. Anyone else? All right, cool. All right, so we observed a fair amount of like malicious PowerShell from, pulled down from VirusTotal, pulled down from malware, pulled down from various paste bins and like JavaScript payloads, etc. Most malicious PowerShell that you'll find out there doesn't use a whole attack toolkit. That's too loud, too many moving pieces. It usually has like a base64 encoded command. Perhaps it'll run from one computer to another with like remote WMI, but generally no. It's just straight base64 encoded, download something, and execute. Like one could say that it follows like a set template, so to speak. There you go. This goes through the full template that I was talking about. It wants to hide the window because it doesn't want to show a PowerShell window. No profile. I don't know if y'all know about PowerShell profiles, but no profile says not to apply any of them. It wants to bypass all execution policies, the file, the command, the encoded command, and then invoke to execute. This is an example of some malicious PowerShell that we did some research on. It's just Poshcoder / PowerWare. It's like ransomware that was written in PowerShell. You can see they go through and try to obfuscate things a little bit. And then another one is PowerSniff. You can see it still follows the same template where it wants to download something, it wants to execute it, etc. Which touches on PowerShell logging. PowerShell logging in 2.0 is very bad. I'm going to say that one more time. PowerShell logging in 2.0 is very bad. Does anyone have any systems that are still running PowerShell 2.0? Stop it. Anyone else so I can publicly shame you? Stop it. Okay, please? All right, so for any sort of decent logging, you're going to require at least PowerShell v3 or newer. I recommend v4 at least because v4, you can backport some of the patches from v5 that enable things like script block logging, transcription, module logging that we'll touch on a little bit later. One of the first things you're going to have to do is enable PowerShell logging because even though some of the later ones have the ability to log, it's not turned on. So you have to go through in your local GPO or on your main GPO on your domain controller and push down these things. So, bless you. Module logging captures, I don't want to say it captures like whole bunches of scripts, but it captures everything that's going through the pipeline. So it captures chunks of the script that's being run, just like lines 10 through 13, lines 14 through 17, and like chunks of output. It's not necessarily the best logging, but if you're going to have no logging, this is slightly better than that. But the other thing is module logging can be very, very, very noisy depending on what's run. Like I generally use Mimikatz for my various examples because everyone likes Mimikatz because it steals credentials and it scares people. It can make a couple thousand events, which can be kind of difficult to sift through if you're going through like a forensics event. No one wants to sift through tens upon hundreds of thousands of events that are all related to the same thing. Next is script block logging. I like script block logging personally. I would recommend you enable this because it captures everything. It reads what's being interpreted by the PowerShell engine itself. So there's no chance for obfuscation. So I'm sure, at least I can decode base64 on the fly. Can anyone else? Just like inside their head? Yes, no? This is where y'all say no. Okay, thank you. But everything's deobfuscated when it goes through script block logging, and you'll get a nice little log of what was executed. What it will not give you is the output of what was executed. So you're going to have to count on other types of logging for that. Transcription-based logging. Transcription-based logging you need a little more configuration for it. You have to tell it where to save the file, et cetera, but it records everything that goes on in a terminal session. If you open up a PowerShell session and just type a bunch of gibberish, you'll see the gibberish in the file. If you run a command, you'll see the command and you'll see the output. Basically, everything that shows up in that little terminal window will be in this transcription logging. And one thing you'll want to note about this transcription logging is it does not get recorded to the event log like some of the other logs that I showed you before. This is just a pure text file. So if you have some sort of SIM or any sort of Splunk logging, AlienVault, thing that you want to set up to send logs to, you'll have to configure this manually. All right, so you have all these logs. You have piles and piles of logs. But I'm sure as some of y'all know who've done forensics, having all these logs without abilities to correlate or sift through them means everything is absolutely useless. So what you want to do is make sense of the logs, like what's important going through here. These are a couple things that aren't necessarily normal most of the time, or you admins can tell me if it's normal if you use it all the time. I'm sure y'all PowerShell remote a little bit. Yes, no? But I'm sure it's from the same computers. Use your voices. Thank you. How often do you use no profile? Not very much. Bypassing execution policy and coded commands. These are all things that are often seen with malicious actors and such. So that's one easy way to sift through everything. Building detection is another thing that's very important for people who want to detect malicious PowerShell. There's really easy ways to make detection that a lot of companies use, where they just look for strings inside the various logs. Like, for example, looking for Mimikatz, looking for Empire, looking for hacker, looking for I'm taking all your data, .txt, etc. But those aren't good. Can anyone tell me why those ways of detection are not good? Can you speak a little louder, please? Yeah, it's easy to obfuscate, easy to bypass. Any other reason why these are bad? You would be surprised, but yes. A lot better method is, once again, using the Mimikatz example, is to look for things that cannot be obfuscated, that have to be used. Generally, you want to look for API usage. Like, for example, these reflection APIs are used very often by Mimikatz. Does anyone know what those? Oops, bumped in my head. Anyone know what the reflection are used for? Often it's for injection into a process, because Mimikatz injects itself into various things to pull data. So you can't obfuscate the use of an API, or at least no one determined a good way to do it. So those will always show up. So if you see those running with a couple different things, you can determine that there's been some malicious activity on your system. The next thing is hardening, because all the detection in the world won't help you. If you get owned, you'll just be able to see oh yes, I was hacked. That's nice. But there's stuff you can do to slow down this hack to make your neighbor look a little tastier than your pie sitting on the corner. Number one is upgrading PowerShell, Mr. PowerShell 2.0. Upgrade PowerShell. Uninstall PowerShell 2.0. And then the next basic level you want to do is utilize profiles. While profiles can be easily bypassed, I won't say they are security themselves, but they're a security feature that can be added to the bundle. Inside profiles, you can limit people from, profiles, whatever you want. It loads whenever a PowerShell terminal opens up. The next is execution policies. Well, execution policies, I meant to go to that slide, just upgrade it, okay? Profiles, all right. So there's various kinds of profiles. You have profiles that can only apply to the current user, all hosts, all this. You can get as granular as not granular as you want with profiles, and you can limit people to whatever you want with their various profiles. And these are the locations that you're going to have to put them in to apply to those various things. Did you get a good one? Awesome. All right, these are the various things that you can do inside profiles. You can like set custom aliases, like for whatever commands you want to run. Custom consoles, like if you like your background being red and your font being green, you can set that up. You can restrict people from running PowerShell from different directories, different scripts. But as I said earlier, what you have to remember is profiles can be very, very easily bypassed, and they barely matter. Execution policies determine what can be run, what files, what PowerShell scripts. Restricted is what you're going to find most of the time. Restricted is okay. Like, as you see, interactive input is allowed, scripts are not. So this is all right because someone just can't run a script that they have on the desktop, so it'll slow down most people, but you can always download a script and load it into memory and then execute it. And so restricted is bypassed. Another one is all signed, is scripts can be long as they're signed by any trusted publisher. But as you know, time to time, publishers lose their keys and they don't get revoked. So once again, this one isn't the best. Remote sign is the default that you'll see in most server instances and requires a digital signature for non-local scripts, so anything that's not from the system itself, but this can often be defeated by local scripts being overwritten. And then we have unrestricted. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's full YOLO. Anything runs anytime. Bypass just bypasses everything. Once again, it's YOLO. These are bad, by the way. If you see YOLO in one of my slides, it's bad. It means your system might die. And then undefined, it's just going to use the default, which is restricted. And the other thing to remember about all these execution policies is they're easily bypassed. Constrained language mode is we're getting a little closer to like locking down PowerShell completely. So constrained language mode was designed for embedded Windows, so it only loads the basic libraries that PowerShell needs to run. So all those fancier libraries like manipulating the registry or like manipulating this or like launching IE without launching IE, it won't be able to do. It literally does not have those dependencies and those scripts will error and fail. So just setting constrained language mode breaks a whole bunch of attack scripts right off the bat. The next thing that you would want to configure is AppLocker. AppLocker, has anyone used AppLocker before? I recommend y'all look into it. It's pretty nice. So AppLocker can, you've used AppLocker? Can you give us a quick definition of what AppLocker is? Most of the bypasses are built in. But when you combine AppLocker and constrained language mode inside a PowerShell terminal, it becomes very powerful. Like them together, it's not easily bypassed. Like there'll be a bypass for, let's say, AppLocker that's based in PowerShell, but it won't run because it won't have the proper APIs access due to constrained language mode. Another thing that comes up is the AMSI. AMSI, I won't go too deep into it. You should Google it. Microsoft's doing great work with this. It's just anti-malware scan interface. So before anything runs inside PowerShell, if you configure this along with AppLocker, it does like a quick check to be like, is this a known malicious script? Is this making a known malicious call? Does it correlate to some sort of malicious activity? And if so, it'll immediately kill it. It won't let it run. It'll just error, kill it, make an alert, etc. It's awesome work, and it seems to improve with every release that they have. Questions? Go ahead. I really enjoy when people answer their own questions. It makes my job very easy. All right. Anyone else have any questions? He gave. Indeed. To give you a quick summary, he was saying that there are ways to enable logging inside PowerShell 2.0, which involve like profile and et cetera, the things that we set up. But then, as we said, and he also said, profiles are not a feature because they can be easily bypassed, or PowerShell can easily be launched without those, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then he made another comment about not enabling logging on invoke commands because attackers can easily just invoke something, let's say 10,000 times to quickly roll over your logs to hide anything that they're doing just in the whole mess. Indeed. Mm-hmm. I'm sure someone else has a question. There can only be one. I guess that's all. Oh, go ahead.
Any information, anything you can provide on interface with those products or those OS?
I haven't finished my research on that yet, but there'll probably be more to come.
And actually then call to Microsoft Azure. So what they're providing you with the .NET on Linux or Mac or whatnot is the ability to do anything in PowerShell and reference and utilize the Azure backend as well. So there's a whole level of integration now that's available to you no matter what platform you're on. That's kind of their super secret goal, to get you to start integrating with Azure. FYI.
It's all a conspiracy. And you had a question?
If there are no logs turned on, what's a nice, easy way to get in there and see and detect PowerShell being run on a network without you being the one running it?
There's some very, very basic logging turned on. By that I mean you'll see the PowerShell engine turn on and then turn off when it's done being used. You have 10 seconds.
There is a, what do you call it, a project, 9, 8. There's a project you should look into called Not PowerShell. PowerShell really is just a DLL, so you can write a binary to launch that DLL and never actually invoke PowerShell exe or PowerShell ISE.
Next. All right, last question. Anyone? Someone from this side. Y'all have been completely silent. I think you don't like me. You. Yeah. More to come. Indeed.
Mind we have
Thank you very much, guys.
We have people on the phone and recording this, so that's why we're trying to get the questions on the mic.
I see. I mean, I can give them to you, and you can do whatever you want with them. Are there any from online? Okay. Cool. Thank you, guys.
Okay, we definitely have a lot more time left here. So did anybody have anything else they wanted to bring up or ask the group? Otherwise, we can get a half an hour back of our time. So for the drawing for this book, so Srikar Venakota.